Hey everyone, welcome aboard Dock Lines and Daydreams. I'm Mike Short. This is the first episode in a new podcast series about life on the water, coastal cruising, and the lessons we learn when the ocean is both your playground and your proving ground. Well, it's early in the boating season here in the southern Gulf Islands. That means one thing for me and the crew aboard Rose Petal, our 48-foot Tollycraft, the Shakedown cruise. This isn't the big adventure yet. This is the test, the systems check, the boat version of a pre-season scrimmage. Now, over the winter, we tackled a few big jobs, servicing the twin Caterpillar diesels, checking the fuel lines, replacing AGM batteries. Well, actually, we replaced lead acid batteries to AGM batteries and tightening up a few mystery leaks that appeared, but nothing serious. What you think will take 2 days takes literally 2 weeks, and what looks like a small fix turns into a parts order from a company that doesn't exist anymore. Classic boat ownership. And should you require a new part for the boat, well, that always throws a wrench into things, trying to find the right part, B, the company that still carries that part, and then if it's a project that's maybe beyond your ability, and most of the projects on my boat are, it's then trying to find a marine technician to come aboard and do the work. That could almost sink your entire summer cruising season. But let's not focus too much on all of that negativity, eh? So, this first cruise isn't just about getting out on the water. It's about making sure we're safe, efficient, and ready. Of course, one of the things you have to do in the start of a new season is check your safety gear. So that includes things like your fire extinguishers, in which case I have, mine have expired, or at least 3 of them have. So I'll be picking up new fire extinguishers before we head out. And the other thing is flares, and I'm just digging those out right now. And let's see here. We are expired. They expired last season, so we'll have to be picking up some new flares for the boat as well. So just a couple of the key items that in order to pass a safety inspection, you have to have that equipment on board, and it all has to be in working order and certified, at least the fire extinguishers. So I'll be heading over to get those done. We started from our home port in Sydney and kept it local. A short hop, maybe 5-6 nautical miles to Russell Island, enough to stretch our legs without straying too far from help if things did go sideways. So some of the things we keep an eye on when we are underway: monitoring RPMs, the fuel burn, inverter loads. We tested the anchor windlass a couple of times. Now, we also took the opportunity to work through provisioning, not the 3-week kind, just the weekend warrior version. That included stocking up on the essentials like coffee, cream, fresh water, propane, and of course, double check the galley, especially the freezer and the fridge, and of course, kept our eye on the voltage readings. Now, I mentioned coffee. On board Rose Petal, we do have the option of using a coffee maker when we're plugged into shore power. But when we're on the hook, it's, I guess, the old-fashioned way. We boil some water. There's nothing more enjoyable than that first morning coffee on the hook. And you're looking out over a calm, secluded anchorage. After stopping at Van Isle Marina to top up our fuel tanks, we made our way over to Russell Island. It was late afternoon by the time we pulled in. Now, Russell is just off the southeastern tip of Salt Spring Island, right at the entrance to Fulford Harbor. We dropped anchor on the northwest side of the island, about 36 feet of water, and it's a very sandy bottom, so our anchor had no problem hanging on. I'm going to have more about anchoring in just a bit. Now, Russell Island has a very interesting history. It was long used by the Coast Salish people. They built clam gardens here. These were stone terraces that were built at low tide, and apparently they're still visible if you know where to look. No, we did not know where to look. It was then in the late 1800s a Hawaiian settler named William Haumea arrived. He built a life here, and his daughter, Maria Mahoy, raised 13 children on this very island. The Mahoy House still stands, a living link to one of BC's lesser known cultural threads. Now, today, Russell Island is part of the Gulf Islands National Park Reserve. And according to the signage that we came across, the descendants of the Mahoy family still come here in the summer, sharing stories and keeping their legacy alive. So we're picking up some bird sounds. It's a Swainson's thrush and a Pacific wren, along with some oyster catchers. Of course, a number of factors you have to consider when you're looking for a location to drop your anchor. Which way are the prevailing winds going to be coming from? What's the bottom like? Does it have good holding? Things to consider there. Is it mud, rock, or a lot of seaweed? And we've encountered all of those in our years of cruising for sure. And another item that cannot be stressed enough, what's the ferry traffic like? Obviously, this area is crisscrossed by all sorts of ferries. And I'll tell you, there's nothing more jarring than getting thrown out of your bed at 6 a.m. as one of the big ferries comes by and, of course, leaves its wake. So those are all just a few of the factors that one might want to consider before dropping a hook. Well, morning broke gently over Russell Island, a kind of peaceful, still start that reminds you why the Gulf Islands are such an amazing place to cruise. After a lazy coffee topside and a quick tidy up aboard Rose Petal, we pointed our bow towards Otter Bay. It's a short hop, maybe 5 nautical miles, and we cruised it slow as there were no deadlines to be met. Otter Bay Marina is nestled on the north end of Pender Island, a bit of a hidden gem if you've never tied up here. The approach is pretty straightforward. Docks are in great shape, and you'll be greeted by some of the friendliest marine staff who helped with docking, something that is always appreciated. And what do you do when you're here? Well, the list is pretty impressive. There are 2 swimming pools, one dedicated for families and kids, while an adult pool that looks like it was designed specifically for that post-crossing cool down. A small grocery store that covers the basics, cold drinks, and even some frozen meats and fish. Add a rec area with picnic tables, loungers, and shade trees. You've got all the makings of a perfect layover. It's also a great jumping off point for exploring North Pender. You're close to hiking trails if you've got bikes on board. It's a quick pedal to farm stands and artisan shops and even a golf course. But honestly, we are in no rush. Sometimes it's not about where you're going, it's about how it feels to just be somewhere. That night, we met up with some friends on another 48-foot Tollycraft, swapped stories, shared some laughs, and as the sun dipped behind the tree line, Otter Bay reminded us again that this isn't just a route, it's truly a rhythm. So after 2 days of soaking in the charm of Otter Bay, restocking a few essentials from the little grocery store and chatting with some wonderfully friendly staff, it was time to lift anchor again. But the next destination? Well, that came courtesy of a fellow cruiser. We've known Todd and Becky aboard Royal Viking for over 5 years now. They're the kind of folks who always seem to know where the next quiet anchorage or hidden gem is. They mentioned that they were heading to James Bay and casually said, "You should really come along." It wasn't a hard sell, the trip just being over 6 nautical miles. James Bay isn't as well known as some of the other anchorages in the area, but that's part of its charm. It's generously sized, sheltered, and quiet, with plenty of swing room and good holding. And for our two deckhands, the dogs, it turned out to be paradise. There's a network of walking trails that lead right from the shoreline into the trees, perfect for stretching legs, both canine and human. The trails loop through some second growth forests peppered with arbutus trees and mossy outcrops. Certainly not a long hike, but it's the kind that reminds you of why you're out here in the first place. We settled in for 2 nights, with the boat swinging gently at anchor, a calm evening and a good meal, and another reminder that sometimes the best decisions out here are the ones that you don't make. Now, let me be clear. This episode is the only one this season where we'll talk about system tests and winter tune-ups. The rest of Dock Lines and Daydreams will keep to the southern Gulf Islands, places like Russell, Ganges, Bedwell Harbor, Pirates Cove, quiet corners, and classic stops where the pace slows, but the stories have the potential to grow. But I wanted to start here with the shakedown because it sets the tone. It's not glamorous, but it is essential. And it reminds us that preparation is everything. So if you're just starting your cruising season, maybe think of your first trip not as a getaway, but as a check-in with your boat, with your crew, and with yourself. Because once you're out there, that's not when you want to find out the fridge doesn't work. So as far as our cruise went, most of our systems appeared to be working just fine, which is always saying something for a boat that dates back to 1981. We did have a bit of an issue with our septic system, but I think we've also figured that out. So again, the shakedown cruise really does play an important role when it comes to planning your cruising season. Well, that's it for this first leg of the journey. As mentioned, our systems are checked and the boat's behaving. We're officially ready to cast off into summer. Coming up in a future episode, we'll take you along on some easygoing cruises to a few of our favorite anchorages and marinas around the Gulf Islands. No big crossings this time, just hopefully calm water, good company, and a chance to soak in what this coast has to offer. So keep an ear out. I'll be back on the mic sometime in July, sharing more stories from the water and maybe even a few surprises along the way. I'm Mike Short. Thanks for coming along. We'll see you on the water.